Did Mexico just confirm that aliens in fact do exist? Yesterday at a congressional hearing, scientists presented two corpses found in 2017 of what's believed to be extraterrestrials. They even went on to show x-rays of the beings, confirming that one of them had eggs. This makes Mexico the first government to actually confirm that aliens do exist. Throughout the entirety of the hearing, they brought up witnesses and scientists to prove that UAPs and extraterrestrials do in fact exist. They went on to say that if we don't publicly come to this realization, that we may be left behind in the galaxy. They showed numerous videos that depicted UAPs that look like orbs floating through the air at high speeds, and they gave examples that both the United States and Mexico had been witness to. They went on to give vast amounts of information proving that the corpses they showed were actually real. They did this by using biological analysis of what these beings actually consisted of. They took DNA samples and x-rays of the beings, showing a skeletal structure and their genetic makeup. They went on to say that the Pentagon was refusing to disclose the following information. They explained that they believe it's taking too long to disclose this to the public, so they took matters into their own hands and did just that. They started off the hearing showing video of a drone that captured orbs flying at high speeds throughout the sky, and explained that thousands of sightings of these orbs had been happening for decades. At the moment, they're not sure if these beings correlate with the orbs, but they know for a fact that they do have a sort of UAP or flying saucer that they manned. How this first came about was a government agent came forward disclosing that he knew where a crash-landed UAP existed. And in 2017, he actually led them to the crash site, where they found these two beings that they believed to be around 1,000 years old. The beings were recovered between the cities of Palpa and Nazca in Peru. They located them in a diatom mine, a mine that produces the powder diatomyces earth. And ever since being extracted, they have been heavily studied and authenticated. Here's just a few of the analysis done on them: X-ray, carbon dating, forensic analysis, biological analysis, genetic analysis, and the results are absolutely mind-blowing. They state that all the information in the DNA testing can be found online, and that in 2017, they worked with Gaia Television, where they actually disclosed these events. But quickly, they were denounced by the media, especially the United States media. It was claimed to be fraud, and that they were actually animals that had been mutilated to look like extraterrestrials. Now, those of you that have been in this niche from the jump, I remember these beings being showed many years back, but people denounced them, called them fake, you name it. They say it was archaeologists and professionals alike that call themselves the scientific community that were the biggest denouncers of their findings. That they mutilated and cut out the eye sockets of a real mummy to make it look like an alien. They called it a complete hoax, when in fact, it wasn't at the time. They say it was the scientists with the most tenure and had been in their respective careers for decades. It was of course these people who counted it as fraud and didn't even give it a chance. Literally the greatest archaeological find in human history. They just totally wrote off as bullcrap. And this is the problem with that community. They don't open their minds to any other possibilities than what they have studied and they believe. It's almost as if they weren't the first to discover it, then it can't be true. This has held us back immensely over the years in discovering what actually exists out there. They said that they had been at the University of Ica for years and that they opened and welcomed the entire scientific community to come take a look at the specimens. Virtually none of them showed up. Crazy. They are claiming that the Ministry of Culture is actually one of the biggest oppressors of this type of information. They claimed their findings to be unsubstantiated and illegal because there were no archaeologists present that day. They also went on to say that, yes, there were no archaeologists present, but this is how most of these discoveries take place, that they don't have time or resources to get anybody to come out, so they just excavate them themselves. Despite all of this, a couple professors who were interested did come out to the university, where they analyzed two beings known as the Nazca mummies. They were 60 centimeters in length and described as reptilian humanoids. This was due to their physical characteristics. They took samples of their bodies, their skin, their trunk, and a number of different places, and came to find out that they were in fact authentic. They were organic beings that once were living. After x-raying the beings, they realized that they had a metal plate in their chests and that they had metal plates throughout their body. Metallurgists then came in and took samples of these phenomena. It came back that these metal plates were pure pre-Columbian 85% copper, along with another metal known as osmium. It's very rare on Earth, and they use it in space shuttles and satellites. It's said to be a very dense metal and very strong. But what's the most mind-boggling is that these things are 1,100 years old, and they figured out how to use them within their bodies and their skin. The metallurgist that tested these items speculates that it was used for location purposes. But I beg to differ. There's something more behind them. Maybe they interacted with their craft, or maybe they allowed them to jump through portals or telecommunicate. I mean, at the end of the day, why would they implant these things in their bodies if they were simply for location? They were much more advanced than that. There's more to this story. It could have even been for a possible spacesuit that when they jumped in it, it interacted with it. Finally, one of the professors pierced the being that was in gestation, that had eggs. I mean, I'm sorry, but that is absolutely mind-blowing. These beings could lay eggs. This goes to prove their reptilian genetic heritage or their reptilian nature. And y'all, I want you to do me a favor and take a closer look at said eggs. That one in particular. You can literally see the baby inside the egg. Even here, you can see the facial structure. This one is actually turned sideways, but if you kind of rotate your camera, you can actually see the head on this one as well, even an eye. They're almost fully developed, pretty much ready to hatch. Now, I always thought greys could not breed. I thought they had no sexual anatomy. These, although are not actually greys in my opinion, these beings are Zeta Reticuli. From what I'm seeing here, these beings are no doubt from the Zeta Reticuli star system. Now, it's been a while since I've talked about it, but Project Serpo, where they actually swapped out their beings with humans. We sent humans to their star system, and they traded us, their beings, to live here. Again, if you're interested, check out Project Serpo. And this all started with the Zeta Reticuli crash landing in the United States. After sending the sample in for analysis, they did in fact confirm that the makeup was consistent with that of an egg. Of course, the scientific community said that they were just metal balls placed in a mummy to make it look like it had eggs. This was in fact not the case. They were actually real. As you can see here, it's pretty obvious. They then go on to show up-close x-rays of the beings. You can see them literally inside the egg. And oddly enough, they are similar to humans in the womb in early development. Human, non-human. Almost identical in nature. They wrap it up with explaining their skeletal structure. Their craniums were large for a large brain. Their eyes large for better vision at night. Their thorax, their throat, actually retracted, almost similar to that of a turtle. And their bones were like that of a bird. Light but very strong. And so after all of this, of course, we can't forget to finish this video with the obvious. Where these beings were found, and what anomalies are found there. First off, the color of the beings, being that they're white and that they're so well preserved. It's believed that they were actually buried in a ritualistic fashion in a diatom mine. Mineral diatomaceous earth. Some say diatomaceous or diatomaceous, but it's basically crushed up seashells and algae from the ocean. It's very fertile and it's still used in gardens to this day. It's an all-natural element. As you can see here, this says food grade. And why it says food grade is because farmers also use diatomaceous earth on their cattle's food to keep the bugs out of it so their cattle don't get sick as they eat it. 100% organic, and it does in fact work at absolutely demolishing any pests. How? Well, what it is it's so finely crushed up seashells that they're still actual shards. They're so fine that they will cut any exoskeleton of any bug and thereby suffocate them. Once it cuts the bug open, it will actually dehydrate them and suffocate them at a rapid rate, killing them. But it also worked at preserving these Nazca mummies' bodies almost perfectly. So back to the Nazca lines. These have been a mystery for generations. They're basically massive geoglyphs made from the soil in the Nazca Desert in southern Peru. From the ground, you obviously can see that there's something there, but you're not sure what, until you get to the sky. Above, you can see that they're actually depictions of creatures, birds, reptiles, spiders. It's long baffled theorists and archaeologists as to who or what these were created for and why. Almost perfectly symmetrical in some cases. How were they made? I would say there's reason to believe that Mexico's disclosure has something to do with this, that these geoglyphs were either made for these beings or made by them. Who knows? Nevertheless, they have to almost 100% be correlated in some fashion. Oh, and one more thing. I believe that they're quite a ways off from the actual age of these things. 1100 years old is way too new. I'm thinking they're closer to the 5,000 to 7,000 range old, 5,000 to 7,000 years old range, maybe even 10,000 years old. I want to say I believe they're pre-biblical flood anyway. We all know that carbon dating is generally somewhat inaccurate. I just think 1100 years is way too new. These things are much older than that. Just my 2 cents. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Wow. Amazing stuff, y'all. Thank you, Mexico. Shout out to them for being the first country to truly disclose extraterrestrial life. Thank you. I hope y'all enjoyed. Go check it out. I'm going to leave some links to some of the videos on YouTube in the description so you can click them and go check it out for yourself. It's definitely worth a look. Amazing stuff, y'all. I hope you enjoyed this. Stay in the love, stay in the light. Be kind to others. I am out.